What's going on, gamers? We got an article here to cover from Farbs. Though, if you go on and you know how Farbs is with their websites and how people like to want you to sign up, otherwise, you're not getting multiple articles. But I could just highlight the article for you anyways. And it's literally what it's saying right there and what they're talking about. That according to Farbs and what they're understanding in the Xbox world is that Fable may be the last straw for day one on Xbox Game Pass. You're like, whoa, what? I'm like, well, look. I think everybody knows that Game Pass has destroyed Xbox's market and has made things worse over time because it didn't get to what it needed to, like 77 million subscriptions right now, right? That would have been plausible, and it's actually doing very well, and more people would be playing games on Game Pass. If you guys didn't know, you could actually type up Xbox Game Pass, right? We'll get back to this in a second. And if you type up Xbox Game Pass, you're going to get Microsoft reported one of Xbox's worst financial quarters in years. We just talked about that, right? Game Pass is actually failing. Xbox Game Pass reportedly missed Microsoft subscriber targets. And one industry analyst thinks the biggest problem is that most people simply don't play enough different games. Before we get back to the Farbs article, right? Like, you could put all those all-you-can-eat options on there, but when gamers get on, definitely in the Xbox world in general, they mostly play shooting games. Everybody knows this historically. That base plays the least amount of variety of games overall compared to other platforms. Definitely the Japanese platforms. It's just the way that it is. Nobody is playing a lot of those games, and they're not getting the results that they actually want. They actually made up fake numbers with Game Pass too, if you don't realize that, on mobile and all that other stuff. We talked about that in the last video. But like the analysts are saying, and even over in the Xbox world, Microsoft's evaluating that as well, is that the biggest problem is that most people don't play enough games. And this is Matt Piscatella. He's saying most players only buy 1 or 2 games a year and spend most of their time playing the same few games. A lot of people are like that. He's not lying to you. So let's get into this. Become a member, leave a tip down below, like, comment, subscribe. Let's do this. I don't see a solution. Most people don't play lots of games, and that's focusing more on indie titles won't save it. Like, people thought, oh, but it's helping indie to an extent, but that's not going to help Game Pass on the mass appeal, because most people could just buy indies. They're cheap. They're not $70 games or microtransactions and all of that. They can get help big time in the PlayStation, Nintendo world and on Steam. It's always been that way. Indie devs are fine. But he's just telling you right here, this is why we had to talk about this before we get back to the Farbs post. I don't see a solution. I've been telling people this for a while. Game Pass is going to have to be nerfed. You got the idea what they said. I'm pulling Call of Duty off there. I lost 300 million putting Call of Duty on there. Gears of War shouldn't be on Game Pass if you're not putting it on PlayStation this year. That's stupid. How are you going to get your sales? How are you going to test your base and say, all right. But Microsoft can't trust that because they already know the results by watching it for years and hiding it from you. You think they don't have the results in those numbers? Yes, they do. They're just afraid to show you, and they already know how they conditioned the Xbox base. They're not going to buy games. So at that point, the only way to change that is to uncondition that, right? You have to, and recondition people to get used to going back to buying games. And that means removing stuff day one on Game Pass, which is what we're about to get into. And a lot of people are like, oh, no, I don't like that. Yeah, but look at the results. It was catastrophic. It fell big time. Right over here, Rhino's post. Xbox Game Pass has reportedly fell short of reaching Microsoft's target subscribers. Circana, Matt Piscatella says, most don't play enough games. I don't see a solution. Most people don't play lots of games. Focusing more on indies won't save it. This right here is what's going on. Then we got to this post that I just got to right here. So we don't even have to go back to it. It's right here. And that's what they say. Farbs says, Fable may be the last straw for day one on Xbox Game Pass via Farbs right here. And you go in there, they're talking about, ever since Microsoft has launched the Game Pass, basically, it just has not helped out like you thought it would. And that they're believing that anything after Fable, since Microsoft hasn't shown anything past that to that certain degree, unless you're talking about maybe something like Clockwork, I don't know. You know what I mean? If they could pull that back, though, shouldn't be put on Game Pass. Definitely if something like Clockwork is 500 million. What are you doing here? That has to be on PlayStation. You think Steam is going to buy at least 5 million copies of Clockwork? Because 7 times 5 is 350 million. We're still 150 million down. 7 times 7 is 49. That would be 490 million. It would need to sell 2 million on Xbox and 5 million on Steam. Otherwise, it's like, even then, how could Clockwork sell 5 million on Steam? I'm trying to figure out. And look, you're about to try to break even on a single player game. How the hell does that game cost 500 million? You see what I'm saying? If you put it day one on Game Pass, to me, you are a moron. Because it's not going to work. Nobody will buy it on Xbox then. Then you're left up. You're saying Steam, you need Steam to buy 8 million copies? Because then you would make $560 million. You see? Then that's only 60 million profit. That's a problem, man. But if you had PlayStation buy 1 million and you had it on Switch and somehow it sold 500,000, you see what I'm saying? At least you could be like reasonable with that. You could at least make 100 million between those two. You could at least make, I don't know. I don't even know if you could make more money on Steam than you would on PlayStation for games like that. Like you would have to sell like between PlayStation and Switch 2 million, on Steam 2 million, and on Xbox, could you even support 1 million? Think about this. If you could only get that far, that's 5 million. So that's only 350 million. Because I can't see Clockwork being a game that sells like 10 million copies. You know what I mean? Like 8 or 9. It's like, man, you're going to need as much support as you could possibly get. And you can't launch that game at $70 or $80. You have to launch it at $59.99. Because I don't know if it's going to sell at 70 like that. It's got to be absolutely insane and blow away every other game around its vicinity. But that game costs 500 million and it's day one on Game Pass and not coming to PlayStation. I don't get it. You know what I mean? Because you're basically saying, oh, Steam is going to do what? You think Steam is going to buy 6 million copies of Clockwork? I don't know, man. See, this is the thing that I think, though. Like, same thing with Gears. It's in the 500 million ballpark with the PlayStation port and marketing. If you sell 7 million copies of Gears, you have 490 million. And this announced today for Gears that there's no microtransactions or Battle Pass or none of that. So they have to make their money off of straight sales. You guys didn't see it? Have you seen the Gears of War? I think it's cool because you're actually making a video game, right? 12-player PvE Horde Siege mode. No battle passes. No pay to win. Cosmetics are unlocked. This is amazing, though, because you're actually developing a real video game. They're taking an old school approach. They said they were going back to that, and there's an open beta on August 6th next week. But since they're not going to have any microtransactions, if the game costs 400 million plus 100 plus million with PlayStation support and marketing, then in order to make a profit, you have to sell more than 7 million copies. Because I said 7 times 7 is 49. Yours looks awesome. I like what I'm seeing. It's a 12-minute video right here. But basically what I'm saying is that...
The city is under locust control.
Yeah, we're gonna turn that down. But basically what I'm saying here is that in order for this game to say, oh, we made an extra 100 million on the box office, you know what I mean? That we're you know, compared to the budget, like you look at a movie, let's say a movie costs 150 million. Box office is 300 million. You doubled the amount that you made. There's no way they will make $1 billion off of Gears. You know how much you would have to sell? Let's say if they sold 10 million, right? At 70. They might do early access. You're 700 million early access. Let's give you some 750 million, 800. That's what it would take for Gears to be a juggernaut success. But no Xbox game has ever done that besides Halo. And that was at its peak when you had the install base to do it. And everybody was buying FPS and shooter games like that. The shooter era has actually been nerfed. Shooting games are kind of like falling down big time. They don't last that long anymore either. And it's spawning around a whole bunch of Titans and tanks just like it. We don't live in that world anymore where this is about to be the blockbuster of the holiday or something on Xbox. Like you're getting into some midnight release line and ain't gonna be a big game coming out like that for a while. Those days are gone. That's the problem. I love Gears of War, you know what I mean? But I worry about putting this day one on Game Pass and not testing your crowd that wants to say, I'll buy exclusive, give me back exclusives. Okay, it's time to test you. If not, put it on Game Pass after that. You should have just put it on PlayStation, man. And you should be saying, we got a Switch 2 version around the corner. Then you could say, oh, I might get an extra 2 million. And then by this time next year, you might get an extra 3 million off of Nintendo and PlayStation. That's $210 million, Microsoft. What if you made like probably 500 million between Steam and Xbox? What if you were actually able to do that? And then they added in an extra 200 something. Now you're in the 700 something million bracket. Now we're actually starting to talk when we think about business and publishing profit and growth and having a franchise that has multiplayer and horde mode and all that and online campaigns that has millions of extra players to support its community. Why are you nerfing your community? And why would you tell somebody that multiplayer games will go multi-platform and single player games will be exclusive? That's why Matt came out and said, don't expect all single player games, but then you put Gears as an exclusive. This company doesn't make any sense and you can't afford that. You see what I mean? This is my worry about Gears of War right now. And I've told people about this before, and I'm not going to say too much else around it. But like I said, no battle passes, no pay to win. They're not making money back after they sell it. Now I'm saying that's a bad thing. I hate that world, the microtransaction gambling world. But the point is that how are you going to make a profit? 500 million is breaking even. You see? So getting back to this, Fable may be the last straw for day one on Xbox Game Pass for that specific reason. Old Xbox leadership has been cleared out with a new team brought in to correct course. No, you brought in a bunch of AI people and you're just trying to find ways to make money. You did all those layoffs. Shut up. No, what you did is you made everything worse. Now, of course, people say you got rid of the political hires. Yeah, of course, whatever. I get that. I understand that. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is the people that you brought in after that are not gamers. They're AI people. That's why that one guy in less than 2 months left. And the Xbox fiscal results have all been negative. You guys see my last video? Everything has went down. It's failing. Satya came out and told you, don't expect to see growth till fiscal year 2027. It's like, wait, what? Xbox is going to keep failing more, he's saying, until next year, so they could get out other things and launch the Helix. In his mind, that's what he's basically saying. That's what he said. I can get to it to you in a second. So, though it's pivoting an aircraft carrier with holes in the hull after a decade of questionable decisions. And that's what I'm saying. The upcoming release of Fable is pretty much a game that's going to be a last straw for day one on Game Pass. Like putting that on there. But then they also mentioned that Fable is going to PlayStation though. And they clarified it again the other day. We're putting this on PlayStation because you can't rely on Xbox only and Steam for Fable. You need that PlayStation base. You need the Switch base for Fable. Put it on there. This is the only route. I will say this in every video because it's like, do I have to remind you need to be a strong publisher? And everything else is pretty much just clear writing on the wall. And this hardware stuff is nonsense. And exclusives, man, get out of here. No, you can't play that game. But you want to know what? I think they're still going to play this stupid little game. And guess what? Microsoft can actually do this because it's a $1 trillion company. They could always do this. They could subsidize this. Who cares, right? They could literally, but they're not going to. But they want to play this little dumb game for specific reasons. When you really find out the real truth, I feel bad for you guys because I'm telling you right now, if this thing does not work the way Satya wants it, he's going to get rid of it. And he's going to only keep what he wants. It's going to make him easy money. Anything else is illogical right now. I can promise you this. X-Tards when they have to start buying games. So yeah, I mean, with this going on, the idea of day one Game Pass being gone, you're going to have to start buying those games again. But isn't that what you want? Right? Or do you want everything on Game Pass day one like that? And then eventually your brand just disappears. You don't have nothing left. I'm not saying those deals weren't amazing. There was years of amazing deals on Game Pass. I was a part of that for years. I loved it. But when I realized the results and I said, well, if gaming needs to be healthy, if gaming needs to grow, then we're going to have to stop this as much as I hate it because the company doesn't want to subsidize for you to stay like that. Phil Spencer did. But if it's destroying developers, destroying publishing, putting you in sinkholes, pissing off investors, and you're like, yeah, so yeah, but it is though. And it's making development worse and destroying the morality because they can't actually build a real game that's designed to make a couple $100 million. It's so easy when you just get thrown a check and you just throw it on all you eat buffet. You're not going to get better doing that as a developer. It's not going to push you to your limits and make you be better. You're going to get lazy, entitled, and everything's going to fall down and things are going to start being sloppy. And that's exactly what happened. All the metas of all those companies tanked. All the sales went down significantly. They can't even go to other platforms they used to boom on and dominate and look good because of that Xbox curse with Microsoft. And it's like, damn. So, guys, I want you guys to let me know what you think. Day one Game Pass being on the edge of extinction. That Microsoft is going to remove that because they can't afford to subsidize anymore and they need games to sell. And they may say, well, okay, 6 months later, you'll get it on Game Pass. But right now, if you want this game, you're going to have to wait six months, or you're going to have to wait 1 year. They're going to follow the PlayStation method in a sense. They're going to get rid of that tier for day one, and they're going to just have those other tiers there. It's a possibility, I'm telling you. It's not working. They have to think of a way to readjust it. Definitely if you're thinking about trying exclusives. You can't have that there. All you're doing is just basically nerfing your publishing, nerfing profit, and putting it still on the very own thing that killed your market. You're closing yourself out. You're not making any sense. So this is why this article was important to talk about. And going down, people were saying, man, you have to start buying games. This guy says, I think a lot of studios are looking at Game Pass members seeing 2, 3, 4 million installs and thinking, crap, we should have sold the game instead. But I play stuff on Game Pass that I would have never bought. I'm more inclined to take a chance when the cost is bandwidth. That's you, but not everybody is like that. That's the problem. You see? If they scrap day ones, millions will scrap their subscriptions. Of course. But those millions need to go buy games. That's kind of the point. I'm taking you away from that and I get back to buying games. See? This guy says, just make sure it's on a physical disc and 100% playable. No download required. Give us what we pay for. Good luck with that. This guy says, I can live with that. Great effing ending to a great effing deal we've got for years. I miss it, not gonna lie. I've been saving so much money with it. I did too. That I probably used in DLC content instead. Moving forward, I'll have to be more picky with what I buy or stop playing day one. See the thing? People just don't want to buy anything. That's a problem. Like I said, Game Pass is great, but it's hurting Xbox. Asha Sharma. Fixed. Modulo. Base cheap includes only Xbox games, and you can add EA Ubisoft for extra costs. All Xbox games, but not day one. 6 months to 1 year. That's what I was just saying. After but 1 to 2 weeks of early access to Game Pass subs for early or for every new release. This guy says, I just think they already know Fable may not be the huge success they need. So when it eventually performs below their expectations, they can point to Game Pass being the main corporate and just end that service altogether. That's my conspiracy-filled take. Yeah, if you want to believe that. But all in all, this is something that needs to be talked about because I think that this is something coming in the future and it's a concrete reality that could manifest one day. Let me know what you guys think. Become a member. Leave a tip down below. Like, comment, subscribe. We always knew that Game Pass was a sinkhole and that day one was hurting the market and that it's just not working. Developers are being hurt. Publishing is just in a sinkhole and investors and the CEO is being angry about it. So they're going to have to change it. Too much stuff came out and they told you it's failing. So expect some type of adjustment. Let me know what you guys think. As usual, keep on gaming no matter what platform you're on. Later.